The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our March Child Nutrition webinar. My name is Colleen Fillmore, and I am the Idaho State Department of Education Child Nutrition Director. Along with me today is the entire Idaho CNP State Agency team, and we are also happy to have some guest representatives from our regional USDA office. Please begin submitting your questions, and we will address those at the end of the webinar. As a broadcast email shared yesterday, the majority of what we're going to be talking about today is USDA foods, but we do have some other very important things that we would like to bring to your attention. We did bring up earlier about the emergency operational cost for the CNP programs. And I do apologize, our slide instead of saying CEP, it should say CNP for child nutrition. And this is going to be a pot of money that will be administered and given out to those child nutrition programs that are eligible. And those programs include the National School Lunch, the Breakfast, Child and Adult Care Food Program. And this will provide additional reimbursement for emergency operational costs as they incur during the public health emergency. So more information will be coming. Our state agency has submitted a plan to USDA, and we very soon will be submitting some fiscal numbers. And once that is approved and we receive the money from USDA, then we will be contacting those districts that are eligible, and we're looking probably at a time frame around June of this year. So we still have a few more months. So just if you have any questions, please feel free to give us a call. We just wanted to give this to you as kind of an update and let you know where this program stands at this time. So that is all I have for the introduction. I'm going to hand it over to Linda, who is going to be talking about PEBT and CEP. Thank you, Linda.
Thank you, Colleen. This is Linda, and I'm going to talk to you quickly about PEBT and CEP. We love our acronyms. So next slide. Our PEBT is going to give financial resources to families who've lost access to free and reduced price school meals due to school closures. Families are going to receive money on a new PEBT card to help fill the school meals gap. Our plan is still in USDA or at USDA, and we're waiting to hear if it gets approved. Next slide. So a child is eligible for PEBT if they're directly certified this year, have a free and reduced application for this year, or are enrolled in a community eligibility provision school or a provision to breakfast and lunch school, and the child is out of school for 5 consecutive days due to the pandemic. It does not count the grab-and-go meals a child or family decides to pick up. This would be over and above those meals, and we are using the predominant learning model at the school. Next slide. So for those free and reduced applications that you receive in 2020, 2021, if they were selected for verification and did not respond, their eligibility is changed to paid. They need to finish verification in order to qualify for PEBT. So you may want to reach out to those families that did not respond to make sure that you get them to respond if your school qualifies for PEBT. Next slide. So each child would get $6.82 for each day not in school after a 5 consecutive day period. And the payment, I keep saying, is on a predominant learning model at school. Next slide. So these are some of the things that I'm looking for, and calendars sent to me would help me figure out the benefits. So I would give a benefit for hybrid learning at a school, a different benefit for virtual learning, so they weren't in attendance at all, and no benefit when everybody is fully in school. The other thing I need to know is virtual learning. So the other thing, let me know if you're doing a 4-day or 5-day week learning. I have the list from SDE. However, there may be some schools that were missed. And the calendar is a Word document in the handout section. So this is an example of one of the schools. So the start date was moved from August 26th to August 31st. Students began in a hybrid learning model, so that's the green. On September 28th, they moved to all virtual learning and stayed that way until November 2nd. And then they returned to a hybrid learning model, which is green, and then they went back to in-person instruction. So they would get a benefit for September, October, and November. We do not pay for holidays or like the Thanksgiving holiday or in Eastern Idaho spud harvest. We would not pay for those weeks that students are not expected to be in school. So next slide. The responsibility, we will hold webinars and town halls like this one on who's eligible and what you need to do. June and May may be a very heavy lift, so to speak, for your schools to send us student information. We are entering your calendars into a calendar spreadsheet, so we are calculating how much monthly benefit each family will get. And then you guys will enter the eligible students into a program, and I'm going to say software loosely. We haven't awarded anything yet, so we're working on that now. One thing that you will handle is parent calls. Make sure the addresses are up to date. And if a parent calls you and says they haven't gotten a card, you may need to explain to them that the school was in session the entire year, they won't get a card. We're also developing outreach materials for each sponsor to use to get the word out to eligible students at your school. And now I'm going to switch to community eligibility provision. So this is allowing LEAs in high poverty areas to offer free school breakfast and lunch to all students at no charge for a 4-year cycle. You have to gather data on April 1st, and I wanted to let everybody know, good grief, we're in March, April 1st is coming soon. Next slide. The requirements for participation. It's a school, a group of schools, or an entire district or LEA. If they have an identified student percentage of 40% or higher, you have to serve free breakfast and lunch to all students. You have to apply. You don't collect applications, and you collect data at least once a year on April 1st every year. Next slide. Eligibility. You have to have 40% directly certified. So those are the students that are on the DC match lists, and make sure you print those out because those will need to be uploaded. DC household extension lists. So if you have a DC student, if you've extended that to other members of the household, we need to be able to validate that. Homeless and runaway lists for each site, and it must be signed by the liaison for your district. Court documents for any foster students who are not on the DC list get counted, but if you have an application that says foster, they're free, but they're not considered directly certified unless they're on the direct cert list. A FDIPR list, which is Food Distribution Program on Indian Reservation, and Head Start student lists. All must be signed, but you must have those in-house. Next slide. So migrant students may count towards the ISP if the student appears on the direct certification list as signed by a liaison who will know. Sorry, we'll back this up. Migrant liaisons are putting all of their information into our direct certification system. So Pluto Pup, the yellow highlight there, he is under SNAP as an M. That is a migrant student. Migrant automatically qualifies. However, migrant and foster, remember, don't confer eligibility to anybody else in the family. They are what I would call stand-alone. So next slide. We have a CEP overview flyer with the schedule, and it's showing the front and the back. A back has the checkoff sheet this year. It's a really nice PDF that's in the handout section. So on April 1st, you have to get your lists for the schools that you want to be on CEP. Make sure you get a direct certification list and upload them into My Idaho CNP as soon as possible. Doesn't have to be on April 1st, but we have to review the documentation prior to letting you go onto the program. And I know this is a state agency requirement. However, we have discovered in the past that some SFAs have said, oh, I have 75 students who are directly certified because your list on direct cert says I have 75 students. However, 5 of them have disenrolled from the school, but they're still showing up on your DC list. And that is the difference between being CEP and being off the program, so to speak. Next slide. An LEA, or local education agency, may select CEP for all district schools, a group of 3 schools, or just an individual school, but you have to have at least 40% as of April 1st to qualify for CEP. Let us know at the state agency if you are going to elect CEP so we can look out for your documents and get them certified as soon as possible, or validated as soon as possible. We do have additional information on CEP in the digital learning portal. So even though this says 2020, we probably will be updating it. However, it is still applicable now. And finally, I want anybody to enter questions you may have at any time. But since today's webinar is filled with very timely information, we possibly might not get to your question, but each question submitted on the Q&A would be posted. So next, I'm going to give it to TJ.
Great, thank you, Linda. Appreciate all the great information. So, as you all know, navigating the world of USDA foods can be incredibly complicated, and we have lots to cover today. So we're just going to go ahead and dive right in, see what we can discover, and then, of course, if we can get to those questions, like Linda mentioned, we're certainly happy to do so. So first, let's discuss raw bulk materials from WebFCM requisitions. Recipient agencies, that's you folks on this call that receive USDA foods, participating in the USDA Foods program, place requisitions for raw bulk materials as pounds into WebFCM. You do that based on forecasted needs for further processed, finished end products, like nuggets, or patties, sausage patties, chicken patties, meatballs, applesauce cups, any of those things that are further processed, as planned using the WebSCM ordering worksheet further processed tab. Next slide. So let's talk about Goodsell Charter School. They requisitioned 75 pounds of WebSCM item number 100103. That's our chilled chicken large bulk. So it is a further processing item. GCS requisition identified Tyson Chicken Processing Plant in New Holland, Pennsylvania as the correct delivery location based on the information that's provided on the further process tab of the WebSCM ordering worksheet. They downloaded the worksheet from the WebSCM ordering training that they took prior to placing their requisitions. Next slide. So our charter school placed the requisition for 75 pounds of chicken because they followed the plan they outlined on the ordering worksheet, which would result in 1 case of each of the following products being available for delivery through the inventory release software system during the coming school year. So they wanted 1 case of whole grain breaded chicken, crispy chicken nuggets. They wanted 1 case of fully cooked glazed chicken drumstick, and they wanted 1 case of whole grain golden crispy breaded chicken fillets. You can see that I've outlined the total number of pounds that each one of those products uses from the bulk raw chicken to create that further processed item. But keep in mind that some products use white and dark meat, some use dark meat only, and some use white meat only. And all of that information is provided on the WebSCM ordering worksheet on the further process tab. So paying attention closely also to the information that's on the further process tab of the ordering worksheet, it also identifies the number of pounds that are needed in the ordering cycle. So next slide, please. Every single pound of chicken is credited as 60% white meat and 40% dark meat. So 75 pounds of ordered chicken product will provide 45 pounds of white meat and 30 pounds of dark meat at the Tyson processor, who is currently our chicken processor. GCS will see these pounds loaded into their raw material bank. So let's ask the question, will 75 pounds of chicken that was requisitioned provide enough white and dark meat for 1 case of the 3 different products that our charter school anticipated receiving in the coming school year? Well, we know that they will need 33.74 pounds of white meat to produce the case of fillets and the nuggets. And then 8.814 pounds of white meat to produce the nuggets. So they need a total of 42.554 total pounds of white meat to result from the requisition. They end up with 45 pounds of white meat. So hey, that's a win. Their 75 pounds will cover that. However, they also needed 25.25 pounds of dark meat to produce the glazed drumsticks, plus 5.876 pounds of dark meat to complete the production of the case of nuggets. So that means they need 31.16 total pounds of dark meat, but they only get 30 pounds of dark meat from their 75 pounds requisitioned in WebSCM. So What does that mean? They're short 1.15 pounds of dark meat. So now what is the charter school going to do? So next slide, please. It's important to note that imbalances in raw material chicken banks occur all the time. It is one of the most difficult things about USDA Foods raw bulk material chicken. The state distributing agency, that's us, can help with the transfer of pounds to ensure that the charter school can get the 3 cases of product that they plan for when placing requisitions in WebSCM. What the state distributing agency will do is consolidate all requisitions that were entered by every recipient agency in Idaho once the catalog closes, which is tomorrow by end of day. Because the charter school requisition for chicken added 75 pounds to the total amount of chicken ordered for the state, a total truckload of chicken equals 36,000 pounds. And some of the chicken ordered will be owned by the state distributing agency. So you can see in this particular example, at about 36,000 pounds of truckload chicken, 75 is going to go to our charter school. The other requisitions in this example came up to 30 pounds. So 5,925 pounds is going to come to the SDA raw material bank. What that means is the state distributing agency can transfer the 1.16 pounds of dark meat to our charter school from our bank of pounds. So they'll be able to meet the 3 cases that they had anticipated receiving for the school year. So next slide, please. The state distributing agency picks pre-established delivery dates for raw bulk material that are found in the WebSCM catalog. But the date is just a placeholder because USDA actually works directly with our processors to determine exactly when the processor wishes to receive bulk truckloads ordered for processing materials. The date for chicken for our catalog, which is April 15th, 2022, does not mean that all raw bulk material will be sent to the chicken processor plant on that particular date. It also does not mean that you will not receive processed chicken products before April 22nd. The charter school will be able to request delivery of any one of the cases of chicken products they plan for, beginning with the first delivery period in our inventory release software system for school year 21-22. So the product is ready to use in their planned menus. They do not have to take all 3 cases at the beginning of the school year. Further processed products are received by Northwest Distribution on an as-needed basis, which means that Northwest will bring them in as ordered for delivery is entered into the IRIS system, into our inventory release software system. It's also important to note there is no 60-day dwell time for further processed products because those products are being manufactured on an as-needed basis. Dwell time only applies to direct delivery products. So the charter school can wait until January to request delivery of any other case of chicken products, and then maybe take the last case in March if that is the plan that works best for them. Next slide, please. As with anything USDA Foods related, there's an anomaly that occurred. So Tyson actually had some requests from USDA and FNM. So RAs have already placed the majority of their WebSCM requisitions for school year 21-22. The state distributing agency further communicated to recipient agencies to please consider reducing the number of pounds of raw bulk material that would be requisitioned and we asked you to go out and check what your balances were in K-12 food service, processor link, or inventory release software system. Those systems show you what your current raw material banks are. The state distributing agency intended to ensure that RAs didn't order excess amounts of raw material pounds for school year 21-22, since many would be carrying a balance of unused pounds from school year 2021. Next slide, please. Banks of excessive amounts of raw material product come with a price to our processors. The processors are responsible for meeting inventory levels and bonds for ensuring USDA foods. Those bonds are calculated on the raw material product orders. So those are your requisitions that were entered. Per F&S directive, Tyson was asked to review book inventory balances on a state and national scope, estimate usage, and identify pending truckloads of raw material products like chicken, beef, and pork that could be canceled. As we have previously discussed, usage of further processed products have been significantly diminished because of the pandemic. Tyson determined in their analysis that all states, including Idaho, should have been at a usage of 42% of all requisitioned pounds by mid-December when they were asked to conduct this analysis. In their opinion, the best and most fair way of implementing a reduction was to maximize usage of current inventory by removing pounds from individual districts or recipient agencies to a 42% usage, and then cancel 3 pending truckloads of raw material chicken, requisitioned for delivery for use during school year 2021 with the pounds that were removed. So maybe you can see what I'm getting to here on this. Adjustments to school year 2021 raw material banks to reduce excessive bank balances were instituted by Tyson, but the state distributing agency and Northwest Distribution were unaware of the adjustments until just days ago, which means that our guidance to place requisitions for reduced amounts of raw material for school year 21-22 may not have been the best plan. Some recipient agencies who recently placed orders for March deliveries of further processed chicken products in the inventory release software system ended up depleting their school year 2021 raw material bank of chicken because we were not aware that these adjustments would occur. It is somewhat problematic that we tend to work in silos. So Northwest has been working feverishly to get all the IRIS accounts updated so that our recipient agencies will be able to see how many cases of further processed product they have available for the remainder of school year 2021. Now, in big bold, I said keep calm and keep cooking for a reason, because the state distributing agency has other avenues to get raw bulk material pounds if they are needed. Next slide, please. So this plan did receive a stamp of approval for USDA and F&S. Each recipient agency will be allotted the same number of pounds used between July 1st, 2020 through February 10th, 2021 for use during the remaining 4 months of school year 2021. This will account for an uptick in usage in case the district has the opportunity for more in-person attendance. It will also ensure the RA does not have an excess of pounds in accordance to USDA regulations at the end of the school year. USDA has regulations that we are not to carry more than a 6-month inventory balance. So Tyson and their broker partners have indicated they're committed to assisting states like Idaho to get any additional pounds via state-to-state transfers which would allow our recipient agencies to continue ordering Tyson further processed products for the remainder of the school year. So like I said, keep calm and keep on cooking. But I wanted to give you some examples of what this actually looks like, the plan that was instituted. So this first example, the excess of pounds beyond this school year's needs have been identified already on a district level. The pounds were, and they've actually already been redistributed to the state distributing agency account to allot for in-state and or state-to-state transfers. In-state means I have it in my account and I can share it with the charter school like we previously discussed. State-to-state refers to other states who have a significant overage of pounds of either dark or white. Idaho can request that they share those pounds. So let's talk about this specific example. Our charter school used 1,000 pounds, and it doesn't matter what product, we're going to say it was chicken, between July 1st, 2020 through February 10th, 2021. So they have a balance of 1,500 pounds of chicken still in their bank. And that's because they requisitioned 2,500 pounds at the beginning of the year. Our charter school will have 1,000 pounds to use between February 11th through June 30th, 2021. 500 pounds will be redistributed to another district in need. So now our charter school's balance is 1,000 pounds. Next slide, please. Did I lose you, Jamie? Oh, thank you. Okay. Example 2, our charter school used 1,000 pounds from July 1, 2020 through February 2021. Our charter school has a balance of 500 pounds. Our charter school will get 500 more pounds to finish out the school year. So they now have a balance of 1,000 pounds. In example 3, our charter school didn't use any of the pounds that they requisitioned when they placed their orders between July 1st through February 10th. So they have that balance of 1,500 pounds that they had requisitioned. Their balance of 1,500 pounds will be redistributed to another district in need. However, should our charter school decide that they are ready to start serving product that would utilize those pounds, Tyson will work to find pounds needed so that they can finish out the school year. In-state or state-to-state transfers mean that we will complete transfers at district levels or at state levels. So we will work through the process. But how does this impact school year 21-22? The state distributing agency, if you've already placed requisitions based on what we told you before all of this redistribution occurred, and you're now concerned that maybe for school year 21-22, you won't have enough raw material pounds, at the state distributing level, we can reopen the WebSCing catalog midway through the year so that additional requisitions can be placed for any of the raw material items if we don't find a state that has extra pounds to offer. So chicken is available for purchase on a monthly basis from USDA. Beef and pork are purchased less frequently, but they are still available. So we will get through this. Next slide, please. So now we want to talk about something new. Sweeps policy. The state distributing agency has never implemented our policy in the past. But I want you to know what a sweeps policy entails. It is an annual inventory management tool used to assist with utilization of raw bulk material. Conveniently, we've placed a copy of Idaho's policy in the webinar handout section, so please make sure that you download a copy. If you don't have time to download it, it will also be available on the USDA Foods and Processing webpage. So we'll make sure that you can get a copy of that. Again, we've never implemented our process before, so this is an emerging process. The state distributing agency allowed rollover of pounds for school year 1920. However, we intend to sweep raw material bank balances near the end of school year 2021. It'll happen sometime early to mid-June. You will be notified in advance. The timing, of course, depends on the last order of the year and when Northwest can report recipient agency usage to processors, and all transactions have been reported so that we can account for drawdowns. What does this mean? The carryover pounds that were included in a recipient agency's forecasting for school year 21-22 will still be available, just not in their individual banks, but rather from the state distributing agency's account. So we will be able to manage this process because we have created a new tab that will be available on the exchange document, which will feature the raw bulk materials that were swept into the state agency account. Sorry, I'm trying to flip my page here, guys. Some raw material products will also be available on the bonus tab, like Pilgrim chicken products that were already further processed and are actually in our inventory, and products from Simplot potato, because we have lots of banks of those, and they're bonus because they were procured with the previous year's entitlement. Next slide, please. So here's just a sneak preview of what that sweeps tab will look like. Currently, if you went onto the exchange, you would not see the tab because it is hidden until we are ready to release it for school year 21-22 and know what we actually have to offer. So just be aware that it will be available to you. But you can see from this slide, the way that it is outlined is raw bulk material will be available, and just like you do with every other tab on our exchange, as a recipient agency, you simply put your name in there and you tell us how many cases of the product you need. And then the state agency will work out the math and make sure that those product pounds are transferred to your account so that you can order the product through the inventory release software system. Okay, so now let's move on. Obviously, inventory management has been somewhat of a challenge this year. Currently, you can see a list of some inventory concerns that the state distributing agency, again, that's the USDA Foods team, has identified as being somewhat problematic. These products are waiting for release through the inventory release software system at Northwest Distribution. Some case quantities featured on this particular slide may be lower due to recent orders in the inventory release software system. But if you just do a quick view of the math, that's a whole lot of cases sitting at Northwest. And quite frankly, it's packed. So this list also only features products that had on-hand book inventory levels of above 2,000. So there are a lot of other products there that are less than that 2,000 mark. Some of the above referenced products will be delivered to recipient agencies between now and the end of the school year, but in a typical 10-month delivery cycle from August to May, it is concerning to see that this much inventory level is still available with only 3 delivery months remaining, March through May. At this point, it's safe to say that recipient agencies have not been adhering to a 60-day inventory dwell time policy this school year. The other thing it's safe to say is if that product is sitting there when our first truckloads roll in July, we're not going to have a lot of room. So we've really got to be cognizant. Each and every one of you needs to come up with a plan. And that's basically what I'm trying to say here. I know you're working hard, but we have to have a plan for reducing that inventory. So now on to a little bit more good news. So the DoD survey, which we've had several people ask about, which was mentioned as part of the WebSCM ordering training, so thank you for paying attention to that, will be released tomorrow, March 5th. The survey will be due March 15th. This survey allows recipient agencies to allocate the funds that they want to use for DoD, and the allocated funds will be available for use beginning July 1, clear through July 30th, 2022. Please make sure that you run your entitlement bonus summary report before completing the survey to ensure that you know what your balance, when I say final balance, was after placing requisitions. That's kind of a misnomer because I don't want you to be surprised if the amount you think that you have to allocate changes, because we will be consolidating truckloads in the next couple of weeks, and that certainly will impact your entitlement. Again, when it comes to USDA foods, the price that you saw in the WebSCM catalog was only the price the day you placed those requisitions. Everything about pricing with USDA foods changes on a daily basis. And also, prices change when the final price is allocated because a truckload was purchased. So that's why we move in this sort of anomaly of pricing world. Also, there will be summer food program DoD allocations available for summer feeding programs. The state distributing agency has calculated allocations already. It's based on a very strategic formula, and we will make them available prior to the beginning of your summer operations. Keep in mind that the allocations must be used by September 30th, 2021. So word of advice, if you are a recipient of summer food allocation, make sure you use up your entire summer food allocation before you tap into the NSLP DoD budget in favors, because there's a limited time frame for using your summer food. So let's go over a couple of WebSCM tips and tricks for requisitions. I know many of you have already placed your requisitions, but we wanted to make sure that if you still have requisitions to place, that you print off confirmation of your requisition. We've heard from a lot of people that it's like, oh, I forgot that step. And we really need for you to know that that's a tool for you to know that you actually did what you thought you did in WebSCM. The other really important report is to run the requisition status report. So you have a report that you can check each line item against your WebSCM ordering worksheet to make sure you implemented your plan as you thought you did. And then, of course, some errors that we've occurred or that we've noticed is a lot of delivery destination errors. Please let us know if you discover when you run your report that you sent something to the wrong location, so that we don't have to reach out to you, because then you can tell us what your intent was with that requisition. Key points: diced fruits like peaches and pears only go to National Food Group. A lot of people are choosing to send them to Northwest. You cannot send the number 10 cans of diced peaches and pears to Northwest. They go to National Food Group to be processed into conveniently sized shelf-stable cups. So if you still need to order those, make sure you send them to National Food Group. If you are ordering anything on the direct delivery tab that says chilled or dried next to the item number, it goes to Northwest. Please don't send it to Americold because it can't live there. However, if it says freezer on your WebFCM ordering guide, you need to send it to Americold. It can't go to Northwest. So those distinctions, we've had a lot of people make those mistakes. Just kind of sending food willy-nilly to a place where we've got to go in and correct it. And just so you know, changing those items is very time intensive. So if you've sent us an email recently or called recently, it hasn't been answered because we're trying to keep on top of all of these errors. Direct delivery items don't go to a processor, with the exception of the National Food Group fruit that we've talked. And we've seen a lot of that happening. You also need to make sure that for further processed products, you're entering pounds, not cases. If you've entered cases, we will have to decline your requisition and have you recalculate because we have no idea what product you wanted. So 2 cases means nothing to us because it depends on what product, how many pounds you would actually need to have entered. Also wanted to let you know that any new products that we've offered this year, the information sheets are available on the My Idaho CMP download form section. Next slide, please. We're getting there, folks. Thanks for hanging in. Okay, so entitlement costs on the WebFCM ordering worksheet are estimates only. It will always be true of pricing in WebFCM. On the day that the state distributing agency updated prices for the WebFCM ordering worksheet, the prices were exact to what was in WebFCM. The very next day, some of those prices changed because as product is purchased, prices change. It is a rolling market. It is part of the produce and the world of procurement with bulk foods. So just know that prices will always change. And again, those prices are not set until the truckload of product is actually purchased by USDA. And you'll know that it's been purchased if you're paying attention to the WebFCM notifications that will start rolling out. So the WebFCM reports that you receive, and some folks elect to receive them, some do not. If you have not chosen to receive WebFCM notifications, I would encourage you to go back into your profile and make sure that you are receiving them because they tell you what's happening with the requisitions that you place. When you receive them, read them carefully. The sales order change below in this screenshot represents the total quantity for the corresponding SDA sales. That's the entire state. So we've had a lot of people say, oh my gosh, what did I do wrong? I'm seeing this sales order change and it says I'm getting 916 cases. Read it carefully. It says SDA sales order. So make sure that you're reading and understanding what that information means because you didn't order 916 cases. That is literally a full truckload of product coming to the entire state of Idaho. And if you're receiving the notifications, you will receive one that tells you, or you will have your requisition status report that tells you, you only ordered 10 cases out of the 916 on that truck. So please start understanding the value of those reports and pay close attention to them. Next slide, please. So with that, the last thing I want to say is thank you. I know that this is a lot of information. It's complex to digest. It's a world that's fairly new to all of you. We didn't used to do things this way for those of you that have been around for a while. So we understand that it is not easy. I do wholeheartedly believe that overall, the WebSCM requisitions and ordering process is 50% better than it was last year. That's amazing. You're all my heroes. I know you work hard to feed the students in Idaho and greatly appreciate all your efforts. So with that, I will turn the time back over to Colleen, where I suppose if we have any questions, we could start on those. We've got a few minutes left.
Yeah, thank you, TJ. That is very timely information. And I do want to send out a big thank you to our state agency, USDA Foods team. They have just been working long hours very diligently to help all of you folks out. We are going to go straight into the questions. We have 10 minutes left, and it looks like we do have a number of questions. So again, as a reminder, Linda already mentioned this, that the Q&As will be out on the reopening website under the Idaho State Department of Ed. We'll probably get out there in the next day or two, or you can always call our office or email us. So let's go for it. Okay, first question. I tried my best to calculate my pounds that I have left over at the end of the year. If I miscalculated and need additional cases because I am under, will there be a way to possibly get those cases next year that I need to make up through the year? Or if I calculated under, have more pounds than I thought, will I have an abundance of cases next year that I won't need and have storage capacity that I might be required to take? But TJ will give that one to you.
Okay, and this is a really, really great question. And let's dissect that into two components. If we are talking about direct delivery items, there's a different process in place for direct delivery items as there would be for further processed items. So circling back around to where we said, when it comes to further processed, if you miscalculated, we have ways to make sure that you either get pounds if you need them, or if you don't need them, we can reclaim them and offer them to somebody else. When it comes to the direct delivery cases of product that would be stored at Northwest or Americold, we know that it's really, really difficult. Let's look at school year 2021. None of us had any anticipation that meal models would change, that things would be so topsy-turvy. So we do have the capacity to do a couple of things. If you miscalculated and say you don't have enough cases of product, we have our exchange document out there. And keep in mind that on the exchange document, on the surplus tab, all of the extra product to make up a truckload that was purchased by the state distributing agency, because we knew we wouldn't be able to get a truckload if we didn't also purchase some cases, are available on that surplus tab. So you can get additional product there. And if you ordered too much, you have the option to offer it on the exchange tab of the exchange document. I might need to rename that tab. But essentially, maybe we'll call it the share tab. But that tab allows you to say, hey, friends out there in the school world, I have more product than I need. I fat-fingered and ordered 50 when I meant to order 5. You put it on the exchange and you hope you have a friend out there. If it doesn't go that route, the state distributing agency often donates food to the food bank, but you too can offer USDA food products to non-profit organizations. You can call your neighboring school district and say, help, do any of you need this product? So there are ways to work through overages and under forecasting. So great question. Thank you for that.
Okay, thank you, TJ. There are, it looks like 4 questions that have to do with either CEP or PEBT. And Linda, can I just hand that over to you to help save time, and you can just maybe address all 4 of them at one time?
Sure, Colleen. Okay, first one is, so we moved our start date out for school days. Does that count? So for PEBT, the school is out or delayed for 5 consecutive days. It counts towards the first portion to be eligible. So 2 days, if that's it, would not count. Okay, the next question. If we have had in-person schooling the entire year, the PEBT does not apply to us, correct? Correct. Please, so I'm asking, please send me a calendar for your school and I can determine PEBT eligibility for you, and I need that as documentation. So send me a calendar and maybe an email that you've been in school for the entire school year. There are quite a number that fall in that category. So next question, if a family chooses to remain remote only when hybrid or full in-person was available, would they not be eligible? So for PEBT, we are using the predominant learning model at the school the child would attend. They would not qualify if the school was fully in person for learning. Okay, next question. Can we do CEP lunch but keep provision 2 for breakfast? So that answer is no. It is either CEP for both breakfast and lunch, or the LEA would have to do a provision 2 lunch base year to have provision 2 for both breakfast and lunch if a provision 2 base year has already been conducted. So it is possible that you would have 2 base years for that. If the LEA moves to CEP when the 4 years have passed on CEP, the school can either qualify for another 4 years on CEP or do a new base year for provision 2 for both breakfast, lunch, or just breakfast or just lunch. So next question, if we had a delayed start, so the entire school was remote only during the beginning of the 2021 year for about a month, would those in the 30-day carryover period also receive PEBT benefits, even if their free and reduced benefits expired for 2021 and they did not reapply? And the answer right now is a no. This would only be for those with a free or reduced application on file for the 2021 school year. We are not going for applications in the 1920 school year.
Okay, Linda, thank you so much. Now let's get back into some USDA food questions. For products that use both white and dark meat, how do we determine what % of white and dark meat are used to produce that product? So TJ?
So that's that formula of 60-40. 60% is white, 40% is dark. Anytime you order a pound of chicken, and if you note on the WebSCM ordering spread or worksheet that we provided for you, we provided the number of pounds that each product utilizes, and we told you whether or not it was white only, dark only, or white and dark. So if a product requires 10 pounds to produce, 6 pounds would be white, 4 pounds would be dark. Hopefully that answers the question. Thank you.
Okay, so the next 3 questions again have to do with either PEBT or CEP. I think it's actually all PEBT. And Linda, also a question further down, because we're running out of time.
Yep.
Someone is wondering if they can get your PowerPoint. So if you could address those 3 that are there.
Sure, Colleen. Okay, first one. What if a free or reduced student had to quarantine from school due to exposure or sickness? Would they be eligible for PEBT during that time since they could not be at school? So no, this plan is using the predominant learning model at the school. The state plan only allows for COVID-related closures at the school level. We do not track by student. Next question for PEBT. If we have been in school all year as normal, do we have to do anything? And my answer is please send to ljwestfall@sde.idaho.gov a notice of that fact and a copy of your school year calendar, if at all possible. We need this information as backup for these USDA benefits. If the school shut down for any reason for 5 days or longer, please note the school and the dates they were out. Students will get paid for those days if the scenario is applicable. So next question, what if a free and reduced student has unenrolled from our school and are they still eligible for the days that are approved as PEBT reimbursable if that falls during the time when they were enrolled at school? So the state agency will ask for enrollment start and end dates of all students. And if those dates fall within the time that the school is operating a virtual or hybrid learning model, the student would qualify. And finally, is there somewhere to find Linda's PowerPoint? I would like to share with my superintendent. And the recording of this entire webinar will be on YouTube in the next couple of days. And he can watch the beginning of the webinar with the applicable slides.
Okay, thank you, Linda. So let's do one more question, TJ, and then as we mentioned to everyone earlier, we will have this out on our website with the Q&A, even if we did not get to them during the webinar. And again, please feel free to call our office. So TJ, the next question, I know I had a fruit. Was it being out on the exchange? How could I get any of it? So could you answer that one?
Yeah, so good question, and it really kind of depends on what fruit you're talking about because there are multiple options for fruit. We have number 10 cans of fruit. We also have the National Food Group diced peaches and pears fruit. So on this particular question, what I would recommend is, and all of the rest of these questions, please make sure that if you have a specific question that you do that is only relevant to your particular situation, send it to USDA Foods team at sde.idaho.gov. We're working through those questions because it does help us know what your intention for your requisitions are, and we'll work through those. But we'll talk on an individual level about how to obtain fruit depending on what kind you're asking for. So
okay,
thanks,
thank
Colleen.
you. Yeah, thank you, TJ. So at this point, we are over our time with the webinar, and so please go to our reopening website to get the Q&A. Follow TJ's directions on sending an email if needed. I do see several other ones here. So thank you so much, everyone. And at this point, this webinar is done, and talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Bye.